What's up, you guys? Welcome to another edition of Dog Talk with Holden. Again, you guys, for visual, you will not get to see me on the screen today, but nonetheless, you will at least get to hear me. Podcast listeners, you guys, like I've said in the past, you guys can go and check out the link that'll be in the description if you guys want to go check out the YouTube channel. Would appreciate if you guys would do that. You guys can do that, as well as go follow me on Twitter. I've opened up a Twitter page now. It is, let's see, I think it's at Dawg Talk 20. So you guys go check that out there. That way, get some followers, what have you, on there. Subscribe to the YouTube channel, stuff like that. So start trying to get it out. The other side of things is I've also opened up listener support. So you guys on podcasts, wherever you guys check this out if y'all want to. Again, the link should be in the description. You can just click it. If you guys feel inclined to support, you guys go right ahead. I'd really appreciate that. That just kind of helps keeps things going, as well as just kind of the ability to get some more equipment or new equipment, upgrade things such as computer, mics, anything like that. So, and again, we always try to give back to the community in any way. Nonetheless, that's kind of some of the stuff I wanted to get out of the way here before we get started in our 15th episode of the season. Kind of hard to believe we're already this far in. But nonetheless, jumping right into it, had Kentucky this weekend. Was not the prettiest win by any means, but you know that's kind of part of it. We did get the win 14-3. We're going to dive into that here in just a minute. A couple of the other things we're going to go through. The top 25 did drop, which I'll run through in just a moment with you. A ton of injuries we're going to go through. A little bit of recruiting talk that came out earlier today as well. Again, if you're listening to this, you're going to have it on Monday. I'll probably drop it a little bit early on Sunday for anybody that wants to listen on Sunday. But either way, if you're listening to this on Monday, this would be Sunday's news. Again, we'll jump through the game against Kentucky, jump through a few around the league, as well as some of the picks that I did, and we'll end it kind of like that. So, without further ado, let's jump right into the top 25. Nothing happening really in the top 5 to 6. It stays Clemson, Alabama, Ohio State, and Notre Dame and Georgia in your top 5, so we do stay in that 5th spot. I thought it might have changed up a little bit after Clemson struggled, even though Trevor Lawrence wasn't there. After the struggle they had against Boston College, I thought that Alabama would probably jump them, and just knowing how Ohio State is with whoever it is that's doing the rankings, I figured they'd throw them up there above Clemson as well. So I thought it may have ended up being Alabama, Ohio State, Clemson, Notre Dame, Georgia. But nonetheless, they keep everything in the top 5 the same. Cincinnati there in that 6th spot as well. A&M will jump up a little bit to that number 7 spot. Florida, who we got this coming week, jumps up to 8 from 10. BYU there in the 9 spot. Wisconsin in 10. Miami 11. Oregon at 12th. Indiana at 13th. Oklahoma State after falling to Texas, which I hated to see. There at the 14 spot. Coastal Carolina keeping it undefeated there in 15. Same for Marshall there at 16. Iowa State at 17. SMU 18. Oklahoma 19. Slowly making their way back up the top 25. USC in 20. Boise State 21. Texas coming back into the top 25 at 22. Michigan, after a loss to Michigan State, falls to 23. Auburn cracking the top 25 again at 4-2. And look at who's coming in the 25 spot. Liberty undefeated at 6-0. All right, so biggest thing in this game from this past, let me do this first. Got a 2022 commit from Bainbridge, 5-star Dejon Bowie coming in. Did see this earlier today. So that is good news out of, again, keeping a guy in state and keeping him with us is awesome. I think this is Georgia's, we so far have 3 commits from 2022 class, so they're all in the top 100. So this is another one that we're going to add to the line right here. Really excited to see that, especially a guy staying in the state of Georgia and continuing that role with it. Now, to the game and the key point, which is injuries. First things first is George Pickens, or excuse me, not George Pickens, which he was injured, but we'll get to that. Prayers up to Richard LeCounte. I'm sure by now, if you're a Georgia fan, you have heard and seen that after the game and the Dogs got back home to Athens, Richard LeCounte was in a motorcycle accident where I believe he was driving a motorcycle and had an accident with another guy. Prayers up to him. I know the latest that I'd heard was that he had some bruised ribs, a concussion, and I think they said a shoulder injury as well. Luckily, does not need any kind of surgery. but does seem like he's going to be out for a limited period of time. They say a couple of weeks, so he could be down 2 to 3 weeks. More than likely, unless something just pretty outrageous happens. I don't think we're going to have him against Florida this coming week, which is kind of tough, especially because what I'm about to run through for you is a list of injuries that were before and after the game against Kentucky this past weekend. George Pickens, he was not in the game, and he did not travel to Lexington this past week as we played Kentucky. He was out with an upper body injury. Hopefully he will get past that dinged up period that he had this past week and be able to play against Florida, because we're really going to need him. Kenny McIntosh is battling a knee injury. He was also not present for the Kentucky game. Really going to need him as well against Florida coming up. All of these guys we're going to need. But moving on through it, Matt Landers with a shoulder injury. He was not in the game. Either Jordan Davis, he has an upper body injury after coming off the field against Kentucky. Julian Rochester hurt his knee in the game against Kentucky. He came out. Quay Walker, same thing, a neck shoulder injury. Lewis Seen, he had an ankle injury in the game as well. Tyreek Stevenson is also battling, just basically being dinged up in that game. And it's kind of scary, We lost a ton of guys on defense in the game, and we were missing a few guys on offense before the game. Kind of scary when these main key guys go down a week prior to playing one of the top teams you're going to have to play as far as getting to the SEC championship. And to me, if Georgia wants to find themselves in the playoff this week or this year, this is the week that you have to prove it. You have to beat Florida Saturday coming up, to be able to get to that SEC championship and give yourself a chance to be in the playoffs this year. I think if we were to fall to Florida this coming weekend, I don't think that the Dogs will be in the playoffs after that, after having lost to Alabama and to Florida. So this is a big one. And these injuries on defense, I know we're deep at defense, but some of these guys that we're putting in, like Lewis Seen, he's a backup guy for Richard LeCount that's going to be out. So is Tyreek Stevenson. Those are a couple of guys who would be able to back him up. Well, both of those guys are dinged up after playing Kentucky. So we all of a sudden get very, very limited and short-handed in that position without putting somebody in there that has little to no experience, especially game time experience. Now, you guys know Kirby. We know that Kirby will put a heap load of guys on the field in defense, which rightfully so, and thank goodness that he does, because in this situation right here, this shows the main key pointed reason why we need a guy to be in there in the first place when it comes to these games, especially for this reason right here. You know, if you lose this many guys and this many guys come out, it makes it really, really tough to be able to cover these guys. So hopefully, I've got a feeling we're going to have Pickens and Kenny McIntosh back. Not sure on the status of Matt Landers yet. These other defensive guys, you know, I'm really, really hoping they can get back in there. We'll see as the week goes, because we definitely need these guys. The other side of that is, if you look at Florida's game this past weekend against Missouri, it was pretty tight for a while, and Florida started to get the offense rolling and took care of business against Missouri. There was a big scuffle there just before halftime, and I'll keep my ears peeled, and if I see anything, I'll tweet it out for you guys if y'all want to, again, follow on Twitter, and I will tweet out whatever I see, any kind of news that comes out about that. I know Dan Mullen was a big one. A lot of people think he should be fined after being in the middle of this and basically instigating everything that happened just before halftime. A lot of punches were thrown. Ejections happened. So I think you're going to see some suspensions coming through this week where these guys are not going to be able to play against Georgia. Not sure what will happen to Dan Mullen. Nonetheless, Georgia's got to get in there and get the job done, because even after all those injections against some of these players, even though they'll have to review it and look and see who all is in it, even after those ejections, Florida still went on to win the game pretty easily. So the other side of it is, if Georgia's offense can't get the ball rolling and score more than 14 against a team like Kentucky, you're going to have a hard time keeping up with a team in Florida who is putting up points. Kyle Trask has put up the most touchdowns through 4 games of any SEC quarterback. So, you know, they've got it going as far as offense goes. Their defense doesn't look all that great, which could be a good thing for Georgia. But at the same time, if we're not moving the ball at all, it doesn't matter. So Georgia's offense has got to get rolling. Hopefully these guys on defense that are dinged up can get a little bit better this week. This is a key point and reason that it's nice to have that bye week before you play Florida. Unfortunately, we don't have it. We had it the week before that, obviously, before playing Kentucky. which was nice, but nonetheless, you're still coming into a Florida game dinged up, as well as I'm sure some Florida players and stuff like that are as well. But we don't care about that. It's what's up with our Dogs. So let me kind of dive into this game from this past weekend against offensively. Just didn't look that good. I mean, when you win the game 14-3, really low scoring affair. That's tough. 17 points total throughout the entire game. Stetson Bennett goes 9 for 13, 131 yards. 10.1 was the average. No touchdowns, but he did throw 2 picks. A few of us were talking about this. If that had been Dwan Mathis in the game and he had thrown 2 interceptions, you wouldn't see him back in the game. Kirby's sticking with Stetson. I really, really thought we were going to end up seeing JT Daniels at least a little bit in this game. By the end of the week, I didn't think that he would start, and I think I made that known. But I thought that he would at least get some reps, and especially after Stetson threw his second interception. The first one, so be it. Give it up to the batted ball yet again, just being a shorter quarterback and not finding the lane. Give that up, sure, whatever. But the second one, even though they say it was just kind of a miscommunication between a wide receiver and the quarterback, that can't happen. That can't happen. If we're call this just about halfway through the season, if that's happening, we've got bigger issues than just a simple miscommunication. By mid-season, these guys should be on, we should be pretty well connected as far as the guys knowing what's going on in the game. So that makes me a little bit concerned, as well as not seeing JT Daniels. So something's really up with him if he hadn't been on the field yet. He's either really hurt or he's just not in a position to get on the field to make us any better, which is kind of a scary thing because, again, I've said it before, I'm all for Stetson, but he didn't have it. He didn't have it this past week. He did put up 130 yards, but, I mean, it just wasn't quite what I wanted. Other side of that ball, though, when it comes to running the ball, Zamir White, he did his job. Kentucky, I think they said Missouri ran all over them the week previous when Missouri beat Kentucky. So Georgia leaned on that run game. Thank goodness we could lean on it because Zamir ran the ball 26 times, 136 yards, had a touchdown on the night. And that touchdown did come on a 4th and 1 play, I believe, and he ran it for a 22-yard touchdown up the middle. James Cook touched it 6 times, 39 yards. Kendall Milton also looked really good. 8 touches, 31 yards. Stetson scrambled a few times to get 9 yards to add to that. On the receiving side of things, James Cook was your leading receiver at 4 receptions, 62 yards. Darnell Washington, the big tight end, 1 reception, 33 yards. Kearis Jackson only got touched 3 times for 25 yards. Jermaine Burton, 1 touch for 11 yards. So look at that. Out of the 9 receptions, 4 of which went to your running back. 4 of them. Most of the touches went to your running back. Granted, James Cook was probably open most of those times to be able to take those receptions and also turned it into yards because he is just like Nick Chubb was to a sense, just like Sony Michel, but especially like DeAndre Swift was. DeAndre Swift was a great receiver as well as a runner, and James Cook also gives you that ability, which is good. He's a fast guy. You get him the ball and open, and he can make some things happen, which he did. The other side of it is your next best touches was Kearis Jackson, but only 3 times for 25 yards, not a lot of yards. And then you get 1 to your tight end and 1 to another wide receiver. So really out of the receivers, only 4 touches came to receivers, and then 1 obviously to the tight end position. So the ball's not getting out to the playmakers as far as the passing game goes. Again, only 13 passes in the game, 9 of which were completed, 2 of which were completed to the other team, which isn't good. But I just really want to see more through the air because to win a national championship, to win an SEC championship, to get to the SEC championship at this point, you cannot be one-dimensional because all it takes is stacking the box and being able to stop that run for them to make us prove we can throw the ball. And if we can't throw the ball, then we're in trouble. And so far, that's what I've seen, which I'm a little bit nervous about, especially coming up in this Florida game. Now, the week previous when Florida had been down with the coronavirus, and even though Georgia was coming off a loss to Alabama, I still felt pretty good about Georgia beating Florida. I don't feel that way as much this week after seeing the just lack of offensive power against Kentucky coming into this week as we get prepared for Florida. And then looking on the other side of the ball, seeing Florida play, Florida just looked really good against Missouri. They didn't look great in the beginning, but hey, look, that second half, they took off. So that's definitely something to be said as far as they go. And again, it just boils down to our offense. Our defense did great. We gave up 3 points, which is awesome. Stopped people when we had to stop them. We held Joey Gatewood 15 for 25. We held him to 91 yards passing. He did throw the ball 25 times. They didn't have quite as much success, but they did the same thing. They ran the ball. They ran the ball pretty well. Rodriguez ends with 108 yards on the night. No touchdowns on the ground. Obviously, no touchdowns in the game for Kentucky. Joey Gatewood also scrambled 16 times for 23 yards. They ended up with 138 yards rushing, which, wasn't a huge number, but at the same time, it's probably more than Georgia wants to give up. Georgia did rush for 215 yards. Again, only giving up 91 yards through the air. Then their receiving side of things, he had 91. So Joey Gatewood fumbled it once. Stetson Bennett fumbled it once, but fell on it. Richard LeCount did pick up a reception. Defensive side of the ball, again, Georgia looked really, really good as far as defense goes. Nakobe Dean does lead the defense with 14 total tackles, 4 of which were solos. Richard LeCount follows him at 13 with 6. Richard did have, 3 put downs. Let's see. I think he also ended up with the fumble recovery himself. How he always ends up right in the middle of the pack and is able to get the ball, I don't know. Jermaine Johnson had a sack on the night. Azeez Ojulari also had a sack and a half. They give that other half to Adam Anderson. They were both in the backfield. Trayvon Walker also had another one. So we ended up for 4 sacks on the night, which was good. Again, the Dogs' defense continued to stand up and look really good. No interceptions for the Dogs. Phil Hoskins and Kelvin Joseph were the 2 interceptions for Kentucky. No kick return yards for either team. No punt return yards for either team, which was wild. Jake punted it. Camarda punted it twice. Max Duffy for Kentucky punted it 4 times. Matt Ruffalo for Kentucky, he had 1 field goal, which was 34 yards. Hot Pod had 1 field goal on the night. No, we actually didn't kick one. It was all extra points. That's all he ended up with. It actually says we were 0 for 1 in the field goal. I don't guess I recall it. Us kicking that field goal. Does seem like we may have missed one, but I don't recall that coming up. So that's kind of how it shakes out. The offense just continues to struggle, and at times I thought we looked good. You take the second half of the Arkansas game, the offense looked good. Take the first half against Auburn, the offense looked good, but then back to the same way the second half. Even though we had the game in hand, we just let off the pedal, which I'd like to see us keep on the pedal. Then you move on and you play. Who did we play in week 3? It was Tennessee. The offense started to come alive in the second half of that one. You put up 44 points against Tennessee. And then in Alabama, you still put up 24 points, which isn't great, but it was all in the first half. First half, you had the lead, and the offense looked good, but then the second half, it was just a dud. You get a week off after being dinged up by Alabama to get to come in Kentucky, and I figured after a loss and getting to come in against Kentucky off a bye, Georgia, I figured, would have had a lot more figured out than what we do to be able to come in here and handle Kentucky pretty easily. That didn't happen, which was kind of a scary thing, again, like I've said before, because I thought that we would have came in here and handled them easily, and we didn't. We put up 2 touchdowns on the entire game. Granted, we held them to a field goal. None of this has anything to do with the defense because the defense looked great, but we've got to have something offensively changed. The O-line looked really good, even though we're young and somewhat inexperienced in spots. The O-line did really good. We got pushes where we needed pushes. Even though Kentucky was a little banged up on the front 7, we still got pushes and made holes where our guys could run through. And again, we rushed for 215 yards, 2 touchdowns on the night, one of which was the Stetson Bennett carry at the goal line to be able to get it in for a touchdown. But again, the run game still looks good. We're just not getting the ball moving through the air, which I would like to see. We will continue to watch and see what happens through the week. I know the latest that I heard was Kirby seems to be pretty comfortable and confident in sticking with Stetson Bennett, even though he's made a few mistakes. The thing I look at is the past 2 games he's thrown 5 interceptions. So I know we want to go with the guy who's going to give us the best chance to win, and if it's Stetson, so be it. We've got to deal with it, but the mistakes have got to change, because if these mistakes continue to happen and rack up, we're going to be in bad shape by the end of the season. We're going to be in bad shape by Sunday if the mistakes can't get cleared as we take on Florida this upcoming week at 3:30 on CBS. Jumping into some of your other stuff here, let me make a note right here on my number so I know where I've got to check some stuff out. But back into it. Again, Florida coming up this upcoming weekend. Hopefully we can get stuff figured out this upcoming week. Let me look at this. Your chances to make the college football playoff right now, Georgia stands at 27%. Alabama at 88%, leading everyone to be able to get to the championship. Again, like we said earlier, after our announcement was prayers to Richard LeCount after his accident this past weekend. Going through the top 25. Let me go through some of your SEC games real quick. Well, actually, while I'm talking about our Georgia game, let's go through some of this real quick. Let me go ahead and put up on the screen for you guys. I'm going to start doing this every week. Should have been doing it, but hadn't done it yet. Nonetheless, I'll get it pulled up for us here real quick. Hopefully this won't be too loud. I'll turn it down if it'll play. All right, your dog of the week comes in. I'm giving it to Zamir White. 26 carries, 136 yards, 1 touchdown. To me, Zamir White literally carried the Georgia offense this past weekend over Kentucky, because I think if you take Zamir White out of that game, or if we become one-dimensional in trying to pass, I think we have a lot more mistakes. So dog of the week this week's going to go to Zamir White on that one, because he ran the ball great, did a great job in the game, being able to put some yards like that up. I think it was his career high yardage game coming into this one. So great job by Zamir. Looking at my let's see, got the dog of the week. Here were the bet lines coming into the weekend. I'll get them pulled up for you guys real quick again visually. Georgia was a 17.5 point favorite. The over-under on that one was 42.5 at Kentucky. And this will bring me to my picks, which were not quite as great as I wanted them to be. All right, let's see if I can get the right stuff pulled up here, because everything popped away. All right, there we go. So far, I'm going to end up this week at 9-8. My goodness, here we go. Boom, after this right here. I took Georgia as a winning 38-17 in this one, so I took the 17 that Georgia laid, and I took the over 42.5. I lost everything when it comes to my picks this weekend. Obviously, 14-3 is not 17, nor is it more than 42.5 points. Then the game that I picked outside of Georgia's game was the Ohio State-Penn State game. Thought that one would be closer than 3, so I gave Penn State the 12.5, and that one didn't happen that way either. It ended at 13. All I needed was one more point. Well, really, yeah, one more point, and I would have ended up with that one. So my picks on the year go to 9-8 after that. Look a lot better on the other side of things, so hopefully we can keep some of that stuff squared up there. Boom. Let's jump you back to your normal screen. I'm going to run through some of your SEC games real quick while I'm on it. Let me double check my notes just to make sure we're still in line. Yep, looking good. All right, here we go. So Arkansas took on Texas A&M this past weekend. Close one there. A&M does get the win, 42-31. Alabama and Mississippi State face off. Alabama continues to roll on, 41-0. Like we were talking about earlier, the Florida-Missouri game in the end, Florida does get a big win, 41-17 over Missouri. The surprising game of the weekend was Auburn. Didn't expect Auburn to win. Didn't expect Auburn to win by as much as they did either. They get a huge win over LSU at home, 48-11. Other side of the ball was Ole Miss at Vanderbilt. And as usual, Ole Miss put up a lot of points. Vanderbilt didn't put up as much to win the game, so obviously Ole Miss wins it 54-21. That's your games around the SEC. Let me go ahead and jump through some of your top 25 games. One of the big games of the weekend everybody was watching was that Boston College-Clemson game. And Clemson, whew, it was close. Boston College gave fits in the first half, but unfortunately for Boston College, they could not score again in the second half. Clemson comes back to win it 34-28 after DJ Ungalele, however you say his name, because I've heard it 56 different ways this weekend. Got the job done, 30 for 41, 342 yards, 2 touchdowns. On the night, the other big game of the weekend was that Ohio State-Penn State game, like I talked about a minute ago. Notre Dame got the job done easily over Georgia Tech, 31-13. Texas upsets Oklahoma State, 41-34. That's why they're back in the top 24. Cincinnati gets the win over Memphis, 49-10. BYU continues the roll. First time at 7-0 since 2000 or 2001, I believe. They won 41-0 over Western Kentucky. Michigan State upsets Michigan again, 27-24. North Carolina gets upset by Virginia, 44-41 by a field goal. I think that one may have been in overtime. Maybe not. Thought it was, but I guess not. West Virginia upsets Kansas State 37-10. Indiana takes care of Rutgers 37-21. Coastal Carolina again continues 6-0, undefeated 51-0 over Georgia State. SMU takes down Navy 51-37. Iowa State taking down Kansas 52-22. Oklahoma starting to win some more again and try to put the name back in the picture. 62-28 over Texas Tech. Boise State over Air Force 49-30. Again, Wisconsin, Nebraska was canceled. So was Marshall and Florida Atlantic. The scary thing there for Wisconsin out of the Big Ten is it doesn't look like they're going to be. Their numbers have risen so high. I don't think they're going to be able to play for the next couple of weeks when it comes to their game. So that's kind of a scary situation there as far as that goes in the Big Ten. We'll keep an eye on things. Like I said, if any kind of news or anything like that breaks, now that I got a Twitter up, I'm going to post stuff on there. And as per usual, I will jump on here. And nearing the end of the week, you'll get your preview episode as we come into the Florida-Georgia game, the largest outdoor cocktail party. I'm excited for it, but at the same time, I want to hear about a lot of change throughout the week from Kirby. I'm going to listen into any of his press conferences that he has. I know he's got one up today. He should have another one coming up later in the week that I'll listen to. And we'll also keep an eye and listen out for any of the injuries, some updates to the injuries around the league and around the team, because we got a lot on defense, and hopefully we can get these guys back, as well as on offense. Hopefully we can get George Pickens back in there and get him some catches, because I was hoping this was going to be a good, big weekend for him. But obviously not being there, that's a little bit different. Again, we're going to play this weekend at 3:30 on CBS. It'll be in Jacksonville, as usual. I think there is still a crowd limitation, even though Florida's governor has opened up a lot down there. I think there's still going to be a limited capacity to that one. Hey, at the end of the day, we did get the win in the win column there against Kentucky. That we do improve to 4-1. So if you're just looking at the top 25 and you see 4-1, that's all you need to see, as long as you don't dive too much deeper into it. But everybody knows you got to dive deeper into it, because we just got to get better on offense. That's all it's going to boil down to this week. Is I want to know, can the offense get better? Can some of our defensive guys be in the game this coming weekend? Because we're going to need them to play defense against a pretty strong offense there at Florida. And again, we've just got to put up more points and have a game like we did against Tennessee, because I think you're going to have to put up at least 35 to 40 points to beat Florida. I think we can hold them under. I think we can hold them under 30, but at the same time, Kyle Trask, he's got it going there at quarterback position for Florida, and they're not running the ball quite as well as Georgia is, but they can throw the ball, which we've seen that our secondary can struggle with at times. So that defense, we need all the guys we can get back in there. Like I said, I've already said it twice. I'll say it one last time. Prayers up to Richard LeCount after his accident. Hopefully he can bounce back from that pretty quickly. Other than that, it's pretty much going to be it. I'm going to jump into I'm going to turn that down for just a second. Jump into that. It's been a few years since Florida's beat us, so we need this one. We need to keep this streak rolling. I think this streak would actually break Steve Spurrier's streak over winning against a specific team. I think, or winning over Georgia for a long period of time. So we'd love to keep that streak rolling right here. Outside of that, I'll check in with you guys at the end of the week, and we'll preview for that game. Thanks for listening. Again, you guys follow me on Twitter at DawgTalk20.